Imagine waking up before sunrise when the mountains are still wrapped in silence. The cold cuts through the air, but the temple bell echoes, calling everyone to discipline. Inside the legendary Shaolin Temple, there is no room for laziness, distraction, or comfort. Every moment is part of an ancient routine, repeated for generations by warrior monks who have transformed body and mind into instruments of strength and balance. The Shaolin Temple, located in the Songshan Mountains of Henan Province, is considered the birthplace of Chinese martial arts and Chan Buddhism. With more than 1,500 years of history, its stone corridors and meditation halls guard the secrets of a tradition that blends spiritual discipline with extreme physical training. Within these walls live monks who follow strict rules, unchanging schedules, simple meals, respectful silence, and training that pushes the limits of the human body. Life here is an unbroken cycle where every detail, from the first strike of the bell to the extinguishing of lanterns at night, is designed to shape both warriors and spiritual seekers at the same time. The day begins early at 5 a.m. The bell wakes all the monks, and there is no room for delays. The first step is not combat, but inner discipline. Before even touching weapons or practicing kung fu movements, everyone runs along the trails surrounding the temple. The cold mountain air fills their lungs, and the run warms their muscles for the daily marathon that is only just beginning. After the run comes meditation. Sitting in absolute silence, the monks practice deep breathing, clearing the mind of distractions. This practice is essential because at Shaolin, it's not only about training muscles, but also about taming thoughts. Each inhale is strength. Each exhale is discipline. Next begins the first cycle of physical training. The courtyard floor fills with synchronized movements, punches repeated hundreds of times, high kicks, jumps, balancing postures that seem impossible to hold. Some stand only on one leg, others remain in static positions that demand not only strength, but complete mental focus. To any visitor, these static postures might seem unbearable for more than a few seconds, but Shaolin monks hold them for minutes, sometimes hours. Every repetition is measured, every gesture calculated. There is no rush, no improvisation, only discipline transformed into movement. After running and the initial training, it's time for the first meal. But unlike what one might imagine in such an intense routine, there are no banquets. Breakfast is simple, made of rice, light soups, steamed bread called mantu, and fresh vegetables. The philosophy is clear. Food should nourish the body without binding the mind. For this reason, the Shaolin diet is essentially vegetarian in respect to the Buddhist principle of nonviolence. Meat rarely appears, and when it does, it's in small amounts, offered only in specific situations or to growing youths. Silence also reigns during meals. The monks do not talk while eating. Before the food, they recite Buddhist verses, giving thanks for each grain of rice on their plate. This gesture, which may seem simple, reinforces mental discipline. Eating is not about pleasure, but part of the spiritual path. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., the temple transforms into a vast training ground. This is when the monks dedicate themselves to Shaolin Kung Fu with full intensity. The stone courtyards echo with the sound of firm steps, sharp strikes, and controlled breathing. The training is divided into several stages. First, strength and endurance exercises, push-ups, uphill runs, pulling their own weight on improvised bars. Then come the fighting techniques, straight punches, spinning kicks, dodges, flips. Many of these exercises are repeated hundreds, sometimes thousands of times. The goal is not to memorize movements, but to transform them into natural reflexes. The body must respond before the mind even realizes there is danger. And it's not just brute strength. Balance and mental endurance are tested daily. Monks hold low stances for endless minutes, enduring muscle pain until discomfort itself becomes part of the routine. It is at this threshold between exhaustion and persistence that the Shaolin spirit is forged. At noon comes the second meal. Once again, simple dishes, rice, cooked vegetables, and tofu. The ritual repeats itself. Silence, prayer, and gratitude. This moment is not just about satisfying hunger, but also about reinforcing the idea idea of simplicity. The body receives just enough to keep going without excess. Eating more than necessary is seen as a form of lack of control. And inside the temple, the goal is the opposite, to train absolute control. After lunch, there is a short period of rest. It is the only real pause of the day, but it's not used for conversations or distractions. The rule is to rest in silence so the body can recover energy and be ready for the afternoon training. But if the morning already feels like a marathon, what comes next is even more surprising. The afternoon in the temple is marked by even more intense training with traditional weapons, extreme balance exercises, and techniques that would seem impossible for any ordinary person. And the question arises, how can a monk maintain this pace without breaking down physically or mentally? The answer lies in practices that go beyond strength, involving breathing, meditation, and secrets passed down for centuries within the walls of the Shaolin Temple. When the clock strikes 2 p.m., the silence of the temple is once again broken by the sound of firm footsteps and commanding voices. It's the beginning of the second training cycle. The difference is that in the afternoon, training involves not only the body, but also mastery of traditional Shaolin weapons, wooden staffs, swords, spears, and chains. Each monk holds his weapon with reverence, as if it were an extension of his own body. Movements are repeated in perfect synchrony, creating a choreography of lethal precision. In addition, endurance is pushed to extreme levels. Some exercises require monks to balance their bodies on minimal surfaces, supported only by their fingers or a single arm. Others train by absorbing impacts, learning to withstand blows without faltering. These practices are not meant to show off strength, but to prepare the body for any situation, making it resistant to pain and fatigue. Between one training session and the next, the mind is trained again. Breathing exercises, known as Qigong, are practiced to strengthen internal organs and restore energy. This balance is what prevents the monks from suffering serious injuries, even after hours of exertion. Each inhale is slow, deep, expanding the abdomen. Each exhale is long, releasing tension and sharpening focus. This technique, passed from master to disciple for centuries, is considered the true key to Shaolin endurance. By the end of the afternoon, around 6 p.m., the monks gather once more for the evening meal. Again, rice, vegetables, and soups. Nothing changes. Repetition is a part of discipline. The simplicity of daily life teaches them to live without excess and without attachment. Every task inside the temple is shared. Some clean the halls, others handle the kitchen, others maintain order in the dormitories. There are no privileges. Masters and novices share the same spaces and the same responsibilities. This collective life creates strong bonds. More than warriors, they become brothers, united by a journey that demands discipline but also offers belonging. When night falls and silence takes over the temple, one last question arises. How is it possible that such a strict routine, repeated every single day, has remained alive for more than 1,500 years? The answer lies in the next step of the Shaolin journey, the nightly rituals and the philosophy that sustains the lives of these monks, where every gesture, every breath, and even silence itself carries deep meaning. As darkness covers the Songshan Mountains, the temple lights up with lanterns, and the scent of incense fills the halls. It is time for Buddhist chants. The monks line up in the great hall, dressed in their simple robes, and begin chanting mantras that echo through the space. The repetitive, rhythmic sound creates an almost hypnotic atmosphere. These rituals are not only religious, they also serve as training for the mind to reach absolute concentration. The body, exhausted from the day's training, finds rest, while the mind dives into a state of deep clarity. After the chants, the temple transforms into a place of study. Buddhist scriptures are read, repeated, and discussed, always reinforcing principles such as patience, detachment, humility, and compassion. In this process, younger monks learn from the elders, taking part in readings and debates aimed at cultivating balance and wisdom. Discipline never stops. Even in these moments, each monk must remain attentive and focused without letting the mind wander. When the lanterns begin to fade, silence becomes absolute. In the communal dormitories, there are no comfortable beds, only simple mats. But for the Shaolin monks, this is not discomfort. It is yet another exercise in humility and discipline. Even at a very young age, some children leave their families and arrive at the Shaolin Temple in search of discipline and learning. For many, it is their first contact with the rigid and silent routine of monastic life, the communal dormitories, the simple meals, and the absence of distractions shaped from early on a way of living unlike any other childhood. Their young bodies are tested from the very beginning. Push-ups on the stone floor, stretches that feel endless, kicks repeated until their legs grow firm like bamboo. Focus is cultivated early on, meditating in silence, repeating movements for hours, holding postures that burn fragile muscles still in development. Little by little, the initial pain becomes routine, and the routine transforms into strength. Eyes that were once curious and distracted begin to shine with focus and determination. When they leave the stone walls of the Shaolin Temple, the children who train there are no longer ordinary children. Years of discipline reshape their bodies and minds, and each one carries invisible marks of monastic life. Many follow different paths. Some return to their home villages, taking with them not only the techniques of Kung Fu, but also the discipline they learned within the temple. Others continue their journey in martial arts, becoming instructors and spreading Shaolin Kung Fu to schools and academies across China and even to other countries. There are also those who remain close to the temple, even if not as monks. For those who spent many years there and grew into adulthood within its walls, life outside demands readjustment. They leave behind the silence of meditation and the constant ringing of the temple bell, but they do not abandon the habits. Their bodies remain shaped by the routine of waking early, the need to train, and the simplicity of meals. In a way, the temple stays within them, even when they no longer live within its walls. A young man who spends years training at the Shaolin Temple becomes physically almost unbreakable. Muscles that were once fragile gain endurance and explosive power. His reflexes sharpen to the point where they seem to anticipate every move of an opponent. His agility is astonishing. High jumps, spins in the air, and balanced postures held for long minutes. His body begins to respond naturally, as if every strike, every dodge, and every breath were a part of a perfect choreography. But the transformation goes beyond strength or speed. A Shaolin apprentice learns to endure pain and exhaustion without faltering. The repetitive training, the extreme exercises, and the demanding postures forge an unshakable mind. He doesn't panic in the face of difficulty. He takes a deep breath, focuses, and he pushes forward. This daily discipline creates a warrior who is not ruled by impulse. Patience is cultivated alongside strength, and serenity walks hand in hand with physical skill. He doesn't just become a stronger fighter, he becomes a more balanced human being. Outside the temple, this transformation is undeniable. While other young people give in easily to haste and distraction, the one who trained at Shaolin stands tall, with steady eyes and controlled breathing. His very presence conveys confidence, respect, and calm. The young man who leaves the Shaolin Temple carries in his body the strength of hundreds of daily trainings, and in his mind the clarity of someone who has mastered himself. He is not just skilled in martial arts, he is complete. The temple's routine may seem exhausting to an outsider, but for the monks, every detail is part of a greater philosophy. Training the body is training the mind. Eating with simplicity is practicing detachment. Living in silence is learning to truly listen to oneself. Chan Buddhism, the temple's spiritual foundation, teaches that enlightenment is not found in some faraway place, but in the present moment. That's why sweeping the floor, repeating the same strike 1,000 times, or meditating in silence all hold the same value. Everything is part of the path. It is this philosophy that keeps the tradition alive, even in a modern world full of distractions. The temple endures because its essence is simple: discipline, humility, and balance. Life at the Shaolin Temple is not only about superhuman training or Buddhist rituals. It symbolizes a way of living that unites body, mind, and spirit into a single path. The life of the Shaolin monks shows that true strength is not in defeating enemies, but in mastering oneself. Tell me in the comments what stood out to you the most about the monk's daily routine. If this journey through the temple inspired you, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who will also be impressed by the Shaolin philosophy and discipline. See you in the next video.